Real ones with me, I know we gon' beat the odds. Yup. Counterfeit, guess they from the thought of it. People fake, think they need to start a kid. Tryna be real, this right here to start a kid.
Huge thank you to today's sponsor, Giant Snacks. Giants is a small family-owned business that specializes in premium flavor and giant snack sizes.
From sunflower seeds and pistachios, pumpkin seeds and cashews, Giants has all the great snacks you need.
Don't forget some of the great flavors that they offer, from dill pickle to sweet Thai chili.
Or whatever flavor you're craving.
Check out the newest flavor that just arrived in stores.
Big Easy cashews and Big Easy sunflower seeds.
Available now online or in a store near you. Huge thank you to Giant Snacks for sponsoring this podcast.
Now let's get back to the podcast. New year, new goals. If one of yours is to get stronger, we've got just the thing for you.
That's right. Meet Alpha Progression, the ultimate app for building muscle and tracking your fitness progress.
Whether you're at a fully stocked gym or just have some equipment at home, Alpha Progression creates a fully custom plan just for you.
It's like having a personal trainer in your pocket.
Go to alphaprogression.com/beyondthespotlight to sign up. And here's the best part. Our listeners get 20% off their first purchase.
Don't wait. Start crushing your New Year's resolutions with Alpha Progression now. Now let's get back to the podcast. Welcome back to the Beyond the Spotlight podcast, hosted by myself. My name is Jack.
And I'm Aiden.
And today we have Jay Schuler here with us. And Jay, I have a little intro I'm going to read for you here. Today on Beyond the Spotlight, we're joined by Jay Schuler, founder of Giant Snacks and several other successful companies. Known for his innovative approach and partnerships with MLB teams like the Minnesota Twins, Jay has built a beloved brand from the ground up. A man of God with deep roots, Jay's story is one of faith, entrepreneurship, hard work, and turning big ideas into a reality. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And thank you to Giant Snacks for being an amazing sponsor. And that's extra funny because I say that every time at the beginning of every show. And it's just fun because you created it. And yeah, that's where we're at with that. So
thank you to you for letting us do that.
Yeah. So originally, where are you from and what was your childhood like?
I am from Breckenridge, Minnesota, not so far away, across the river. You know, it goes back in the family and how I was raised by my parents, being the oldest of eight. My grandfather had started a couple businesses when he got back from World War I, and both of them failed. So two strikes. And then the third one caught, and that was in Breckenridge. He's in the elevator business. And my dad and uncle grew up in an environment where we got to succeed, we got to make it work. And so my dad was very innovative, and I was so blessed because he took me on a lot of his business meetings, and I was a little guy, the mouse in the corner, and so I saw what he was doing, and I was quiet because I was just a little punk, but listened. So I wanted to be like my father. That was my goal. So then I actually started a few businesses, or so I thought they were businesses when I was a youngster. And one of the crazy ones were a friend of mine, Dana Ream, and myself, we saw that they were selling these canaries in the store for like $4, and $4 in the 60s was a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So we had this crazy idea that we could produce parakeets. So we caught sparrows, and we got spray paint, and we painted them blue.
No.
And then we got a big fan to dry them off.
Oh, man.
Well, the next day the parakeets were dead. So that was our first lesson on genetics. You can't turn something into something it's not.
Yeah.
If you're a dog, you're a dog. If you're a cat, you're a cat. If you're a parakeet, you're a parakeet. So that was the first one, failure. Another one was when the trains, all the grain moved from the area in boxcars. Now we have hoppers, which you see on it. But these boxcars, they were boarded up and filled with grain, corn, wheat, soybeans, etc. And then when they were unloaded, a lot of times they'd be down in the cities or out west. They wouldn't completely unload them, and there'd still be grain left in them. And we would take our bicycles and we would go and check all the cars because they were open to see how much grain was in them. And once in a while we'd find cars that had a lot of grain in it. So we had jute burlap bags and brooms and shovels, and we would clean them out. And then we'd haul them to the elevator, weigh them up, and sell them.
There you go.
And we, at that time, flax was worth like $7 a bushel, which that was a lot of money. So when we found flax, I mean, we were just doing high fives, and we'd haul it up. And so that was a business that gave us a lot of spending money. It was a cool little business. And then when I keep my eyes open when there was a derailment. Or cars that there's a big wreck, and they'd clean them up, but the union guys, they really didn't clean them up. So there'd be piles of wheat or piles of flax, hopefully, there. So then I talked my mother into going out with the station wagon, and we'd load them all up and haul them to the elevator and sell them. So that was so a lot of guys had paper routes at that time, or they had lemonade stands like you, but I didn't. And that was kind of an interesting deal. And one interesting thing that happened, this was another friend of mine, Pete Jensen, and I. We were, getting the grain, and these two guys came up to us and said, "Hey, you can't be here. We're from the railroad." And we looked at them. Really, I don't think you're from the railroad, but we didn't. We just kept our mouths shut. And then we watched them, and then they started doing what we were doing. So then we had we had to beat these guys. When a new train came in, we'd be watching them. When new cars came in, we'd try and beat them so we could get the grain. So that was between it was kind of a challenge because I was going to St. Mary's at the time, and we had basketball in the wintertime and football, flag football, and all the time. So it was a busy time. So that was my first experience with business. A complete failure, a learning on genetics, and then a pretty lucrative business at the time.
Was that like during high school?
Before even high school,
Before?
grade school. Yeah, I was bicycling it. So,
Okay.
I would have had a license when I was 16.
Right,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So you were an entrepreneur ever since that super young age.
I was, and I actually ended up being an entrepreneur in resident in later years at the University of North Dakota and studied it. And everyone's got a different thought on entrepreneurship, but I think about 10% of the people just have the genetics for entrepreneurship, and probably 30 to maybe 50% of the people like to work in an entrepreneurial atmosphere. They don't want to be a number working for General Motors or John Deere. They want to actually be part of a family, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I was blessed with genetics, and I was blessed with a hell of a teacher in my father.
Yeah.
And that helped. Both helped a lot.
What was that relationship like between you and your dad?
Well, back in those days, it was so different because we respected our parents and we loved our parents, but there was a little bit of fear when we got out of line. One of the things, going to St. Mary's, if we got in trouble with the teacher, that was bad, but we were more afraid the teacher was going to tell our parents because it would be worse when we get home. And in today's world, it just seems that, unfortunately, parents stick up for their kids and don't discipline their children like they should. But no, it's a good. I had wonderful parents.
Were the nuns teaching at the time at St. Mary's, or was that even?
Yeah, we had all classes except the 5th grade were nuns. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
What was that like, being taught by nuns?
It's all we knew.
Yeah. I've never even really met a nun, I don't think. So I don't know what it would be like to be taught.
Yeah, they all had habits, and
I would be so scared, to be honest. You get out of line and I don't know. I'd be nervous.
Yeah, they were pretty strict, but it was a good education, great education.
Did you do further education, or did you just stop it there after your high
St.
school?
Mary's is goes through 8th grade. So
Okay.
I'm assuming
Oh,
you went
okay.
to Breckenridge High School.
Yeah, I went to Breckenridge High School, yes.
And
Yep.
then did you have any businesses to touch on from high school?
Yeah, it was interesting. My dad had taken varieties of sunflowers that he got from Canada. There was a variety called Mingren, and there was a variety called Commander that came from the University of North Dakota. And he started, he brought sunflowers now these were open pollinated, not hybrids.
Okay.
To the Southern Valley, and he would contract with companies like Fisher Nut Company or for planters or for David's, and he would produce seeds. But when I was in high school, there was like almost a wipeout. There was a disease, rust it was, and when the rust hit, if it was bad, it would kill the whole field. I went with my dad, and we went down to Ivan Miller's field down by Fairmont, and there was about 10 plants in the field that were just green and happy as could be, and the rest were dead. So we called up NDSU, the plant pathology department, a guy by the name of Dave Zimmer, who was a plant pathologist for both sunflowers and flax. And he came down, and he was really interested, and he grabbed seeds from all those. And he just said that they've got some natural resistance, which happens often, in a lot of things that you eventually select for something that survives, and whether it's humans or plants. So he took those seeds, and he took them to Hawaii and increased them, and was able, because we came up with it, we got some of the seed, and we called it S100 for Sigco 100. That was my dad's name. And then they had the brand or the variety Sundak and released it. And we really didn't know what we were doing. And so the whole industry switched over to Sundak. And the reason that was important, it really told me that, man, this genetics thing is a big, big deal. So I'm not a scientist, I'm not a geneticist, but I was extremely interested in the genetics of sunflowers. And at that time, a woman named Leclerc in France had found the cytoplasmic sterility, which meant there was going to be female side. And Murray Kinman and his team down in Texas came up with the Restorer, and that meant there was hybrids. You could make hybrids. And hybrids would do two things. It increases the yield, and it can increase the quality of the product. So then when I went to NDSU, I was in business, but I got involved and worked in the program in genetics. And Dr. Fick was just hired. He got his PhD at the University of California, Davis. And I got, just super excited and saw what was going on. And more importantly, he did some really good work. And all of a sudden, there are scientists from Russia, from Yugoslavia, from France, from Argentina coming to his program. So I get in. I'm a young punk kid, younger than what you guys are right now.
Yeah.
And my hair was a little bit longer and a little bit greasier. But so I met all these foreign, and I said, man, this is a big deal. Look what Gary's doing, all these people. And, Gary would take me to lunch with them. It was pretty cool. So as things went on, the whole industry switched to hybrids, and all of a sudden the foreigners wanted them. And I worked for Gary, and Gary was 10 years my senior. And then when I was in graduate school in economics, I was out at Castleton with him. I can remember this, it's just weird how you remember some things when you're small, when you were small. And I said, Gary, we should start a company. And he says, you think so? I thought, man, this guy's interested. So I went back and drew up a business plan and did it on a napkin. And
those are the best ones.
They're the
when
best
you write them on
ones.
the napkins.
Yeah. Oftentimes they're in the bar, but this one wasn't.
Yeah.
And came up with a plan. And Gary says, well, let's do this. Let's start it. I'll stay here another year. You go and get it going, get the company going. And that's exactly what happened. And it was just so much fun. It's always kind of when you have a business plan and when you're going to do something and you think you're going to need 100,000, to do it, you're probably going to need about 250.
Yeah.
We were lucky right out of the chute. You know, sometimes you're blessed with the luck of the market, and right out of the chute, we made money.
So how old were you when that all started?
22, 23.
Wow. So you started that business at that age.
Yeah. But Gary is my partner. You know, I've started a number of businesses, and I've either been, anywhere from 20% to 100%. In this case, we were 50-50. We did, it's kind of interesting. We did get my dad and uncle involved, and we just figured I was too young to be a president. No farmer would want to buy from me, so
Sure.
so my dad was the president, but he really didn't know what was going on. But he trusted us. I mean, my dad knew a lot was going on, but in this particular business,
He just had the title.
He was,
sounds like.
he was doing other things. He was doing other wonderful things. So
Sure.
yeah, so that's how it started. And God, I just was having a blast starting a business and going, crazy like that. And so then, the business rolled, and we actually had a lot of companies that came to see us that wanted to buy us, and we said, no, we're good. But then certain things changed in the market, and we decided to sell the company. And, both of us had some regrets because it was like our baby. We had started it. It was great, but we didn't have any money when we started, and then all of a sudden we're pretty good. So, that was the first one, but it really got my juices going. So then I went off and started a number of different companies. I was investing in a lot of companies, and it turned out well.
What were some of the, besides Giants, we'll get into Giants, but what were some of the other notable ones that you've started? Because you have 15, we'd love to dive into all 15, but I don't think we'll have the time to do it. So what were some of the ones that stuck out to you?
Well, one that went broke, it was wind generating, the wind generators you see everywhere. Well, Jimmy Carter was president, and he had programs, and that was kind of what started the wind generator, thing going on, and make your own electricity. In fact, I had one at the farm from our company, and I was actually selling electricity back to the electrical companies. The farm was taken care of. But then when Ronald Reagan came in, he did away with all the subsidies. Kind of sounds similar like what's happening right now. So actually every wind generating company went broke, all of them. And because they were dependent on tax deductions to really get things going. So the only ones that survived were in Europe, and Europe continued the subsidy. And then when the subsidies came back and technology got better in the U.S., then that technology from Europe flowed back to the U.S. So I remember that one. That was one that didn't make it. And another one that didn't make it was sun butter. There was a peanut shortage, and we were making sun butter out of sunflower seeds. And
Wow.
we did not we didn't do our due diligence. We didn't do our taste test properly. We didn't invest as we should have, and we plinked along for a while, and then we just closed the doors because it wasn't making it. And then not too long after that, they found out that you can't have peanut butter in schools because of the allergies. Well, they had them for 100 years, but then all of a sudden you can't have it. So then another company started making sun butter, and they did fair, and because they could have sun butter in schools. But anyway, were we too early, or were we? I don't know. It didn't work, but.
So those were the two that failed
Yep.
out of the 15 that you started. So
Yeah, and you say I started, yes, but,
Yes.
but I was partnered in a lot of
Okay.
them, but I was one of the key players, or the key player, depending on the business. Yeah.
Were any of these businesses you completely started on your own and you were 100%?
Yeah, in the case of Giants, I guess I had like 80%, and my brother had 20, and then my sons came into the business, and we started, they worked their way up, and now they own the company and doing a great job. I've got some farms that I'm 100%. Yeah, that's probably the biggest ones, yeah.
But you've always had that mindset of just on to the next thing. Like, let's start the next business. Let's invest in the next new opportunity. Is that how you've always been?
Yes, but the problem I had was maybe too focused on business. You know, you need a balance in life. And my dad told me that, you know, the first generation starts it, a business. The second generation really grows it into something. And the third generation screws it up. And you can kind of see the reasoning because the third generation has the silver spoon in their mouth and they don't know how to work. And he told me that more than once. And I said, I'm going to show you, Dad. I'm going to show you, Dad. So I worked my butt off. But, you know, I probably didn't have a really good enough balance in life. And I tell my children that, you know, in your marriage, make sure you have a date night with your spouse and, you know, have a balance because it catches up to you. So then, you know, I was started a lot of businesses, but I kind of cooled my jets when I was, 55 or so.
Sure.
I just, that's enough of that. I had a heart attack when I was 40.
Well,
And
wow.
Then I started running marathons to stay in shape. So I ran marathons. And then the last one I ran was in Antarctica. And when I got back, I had a back operation. I got titanium in my back. And then a few years ago, I had open heart surgery. I have a cow valve here because I found out when I was, 66 or whatever, that I had a birth defect. So
Really?
So anyway, I'm not starting businesses right now. But I'm excited. I'm happy to see, you know, what the boys are doing here. You know, my two boys and my brother Tom are, you know, doing a great job of, you know, taking this company to the next step. And they did, you know, to be honest, you know, a lot of the growth that we had with Giants was, you know, initiated by my sons of different marketing ideas. And
Sure. Did you miss one business when we were talking earlier about the genetic seed business?
No, Gary and I, you know, we both had, you know, somewhat regrets because, you know, our first company was Sigco Research, the seed develop, you know, our slogan was Sigco Research, where research breeds results. And, you know, we became the largest sunflower seed company in the U.S. It was a big deal. We had TV spots and we marketed overseas and had a lot of, you know, great customers overseas. But when we sold it, we missed it. Gary went in and started a company called Seeds America. And then, you know, but he was kind of wholesaling it. And then I got back involved with him and we started Seeds 2000. And that was a fun company too. And what we did there is we changed and we marketed direct to farmers. So we were able to get the, you know, all the farmers and their phone numbers, and we had people that called and we marketed direct. We were kind of following the Dell computer model at the time. One of the key things we did is we started marketing into China, and we were able to increase the Chinese farmers' yield by 50%. Just think of that, 50%.
Wow.
So we'd go to China, and I would go to China every year, and you know, it was like we walked on water. They treated us good, and I mean, the revenue was phenomenal, and that was a really a good business. And I got to the point where I was spending 3 months a year overseas. In the summertime, I would be in China, I would be in Europe, I'd be in Russia, I'd be in the Ukraine, and in the wintertime, I would be in South Africa, Argentina, and Australia. But China really took off, and it was phenomenal. And Gary had talked to me, you know, maybe we should sell this company. And I said, no, let's wait. This China thing's good. And, you know, the China thing continued to grow. You know, my intuition was right. And a couple of years later, I said, okay, I think we maxed. If you want to sell, we should sell. And there was a company that wanted to buy us in the worst way, and they bought basically 50%. And which was really nice for Gary and I in a way, because we were able to, you know, harvest some good returns, but at the same time we could be in the game. one thing about small businesses, and you guys will find that out, the banks want a personal guarantee. In other words, if your business fails, they want to take your oldest child, your dog. They don't like cats, but
Yeah.
But that's one of the bad things about starting a business, because the bankers want to make darn sure that you're all in. But so we were able to get off the personal guarantee, which was great. And then the business continued to just go really well in China. And then I was over there, and the Chinese, as you know, have a habit of copying everything we do, which they do, and it's pretty hard with genetics, but they actually got into our fields and stole some of our parents. And they were able to copy what we had. And there's no way to go to court in China. I mean, it was impossible. I came back, and we had a board meeting. It was in the Twin Cities, and the other stockholders, one was from Chicago and one was from Iowa. And I said, hey, they're copying our stuff. We got to sell this company. I said, we cannot compete. We can't fight it. And there was a company, a publicly traded company in Australia that really wanted to get into business. And our partner, Tom Carlson from Chicago, is a really good negotiator, and he was able to put together a sale to that company in Australia. So we came out of it good, and they had more opportunity to fight legally. They had a footprint in China with their chemical business, but we sold, did well, and unfortunately the Chinese won. It didn't go so good in China. Yeah, but our timing was, we were fortunate. We were blessed with our timing.
Huge thank you to today's sponsor, Giant Snacks. Giants is a small family-owned business that specializes in premium flavor and giant snack sizes.
From sunflower seeds and pistachios, pumpkin seeds and cashews, Giants has all the great snacks you need.
Don't forget some of the great flavors that they offer, from dill pickle to sweet Thai chili.
Or whatever flavor you're craving.
Check out the newest flavor that just arrived in stores.
Big Easy cashews and Big Easy sunflower seeds.
Available now online or in a store near you. Huge thank you to Giant Snacks for sponsoring this podcast.
Now let's get back to the podcast.
So that was a fun one too. But all the businesses are fun to some extent, but they have their ups and downs. You don't always know which one's going to make it, and you really need to get together on a annual basis or every couple years and really redo your business plan. Are we on the right track? And if we are, great. But always be ready to modify it. I mean, our goal is always here, but how do you get there? Social media is a great, a good example. And you guys doing this, I mean, Joan knows I listen to a lot of podcasts about a lot of things. Yeah. Guys like Joe Rogan. Are you the next Joe Rogan?
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
I like it.
So how did Giants start then?
Well, Giants is interesting. Again, back to the genetics. My father had a business where he would grow the sunflowers and then buy it from the farmer, clean it, and then sell it to David and Sons, or to Frito-Lay, Fisher Nut Company. And we developed a better product, and this was from Gary's program, Seeds 2000. And figured we could run it through my dad's company, and it was a much better product, and we could get a premium. So I flew out to Fresno and met with the president of David's. And David's at that time was owned by ConAgra. No, excuse me. At that time, now ConAgra. They were owned by Nestle. And Nestle was the largest food company in the world at the time. I think they maybe still are. And I presented what we had. And I said, you guys are number one. This will fit right in. It's going to cost you like 3 cents a pound more. Oh, Jay, this is a nice thing. But, we're number one. We're happy. Thank you for coming out. And I was so angry when I walked away. I thought, God, I'm a bad salesman. And then came back and then made a trip to Fisher Nut Company. And at that time, they were owned by San Filippo in Chicago. And so I flew to Chicago and had the same discussion, about what we could do. You guys are number two, and you could easily be number one. Just this product will do it. And, oh, Jay, this is a nice product, but blah, 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 blah. So I flew back from Chicago, and I think I'm the worst salesman. God, this is just a layup. So I came back and kind of crying in my beer, and people in the company said, "Well, we should do it. We should do it." And I thought, yeah, we should, but Sun Butter kind of went down in flames. I don't think we're very good in the retail market to the consumer. So we, but we're sold on the quality. So we made products, and we were very, very careful. And there was a company out of Minot that really picked up on our seed, and they went crazy. Wholesale Supply was the name, and they loved our product, and they went crazy for it. And we thought, God, yes, it's going to fly. And then, the stop and goes at that time were popular, and we were able to get into stop and goes, and we had good success there. So it took off. We got a broker. We're doing things, but we're relatively small. But it was going good. We were profitable. And then when my dad passed away, a couple years later, we sold his company, and at that time they actually wanted to buy the mothership of Giants, which was Dakota Gourmet, which is a company we had started earlier. And we said, okay, we will sell you Dakota Gourmet, but we're keeping Giants.
Okay.
And Giants at that time, even though everything was positive, we weren't making money, but we just felt that it would take off. So so Giants started by two negatives. Two negatives equal a positive, they say, right? Is that math or engineering, whatever it is?
Yeah.
But the two biggest companies in the U.S. said, nice product, but no thank you. So we came up with it ourselves. And, there's lots of times that you remember. And, Jason, my oldest son, he was at UND during the flood. Remember that? They cut off classes. The town was burning down, and you guys were probably in your cribs. But,
yeah.
But Howard Dahl, good friend of mine, he taught a night class there, and both my sons, Jason and Robert, were at this night class, and Howard was, sharing his business experience with them, and even they were looking at buying Wilrich down here because Wilrich is in trouble, and he eventually did. But when that class was over, Jason came down to my office and said, Dad, Howard Dahl taught me everything I ever need to know about business. I'm done with UND. I'm ready to go sell Giants. And, I didn't even argue with him because I knew Jason. I felt, okay, you're ready. And God, it was like a month later, he says, we need to be the official seed of the Minnesota Twins. And I had to hold back from laughing because our market share in Minneapolis was 0.0, nothing. But he went down and, was able to connect with Dave St. Peter, the president of the Twins, and he got him in touch with their marketing guy, and he came back with a plan that we would be the only seed being sold at the stadium, the Metropolitan Stadium, the old one, and we would be in both dugouts. So that means and we didn't really, maybe Jason did, and other people didn't realize how important that was. So,
that's a huge marketing deal right there, being on the TV in front of all those people and having those
And
players.
baseball's known for sunflower seeds.
Yes. Yeah, it used to be every baseball player chewed tobacco, and then they had to kind of get out of the tobacco, and they needed something, and sunflower seeds was good. So, Jason came back with a contract, and we looked at it and worked it over a little bit, and we went ahead and signed it, and it was good. You'd have to ask Jason and Robert how long it was, but it wasn't very long. Got a call from the New York Yankees, and they called Jason, and my sons, we work hard, but we joke a lot, and we have fun. This guy said, I'm Lou from the New York Yankees, and I'm the club manager, and we love your sunflower seeds, and we'd like to have them in the Yankees dugout. And Jason said something, I don't know, maybe a swear word, because he thought it was one of his buddies giving him grief. So he slammed the phone down. Thank goodness Lou called right back and said, "No, I really am. I'm Lou. We want your seeds."
Oh, God.
So then the Yankees got him, and then the Yankees started traveling with them. They'd take our seeds, and when they go to another team, other than the Twins, they'd bring them with, which was wonderful. So then, Lou was connected with all the other managers, club managers, and they eventually, we're in every dugout except a couple. And you'd have to ask Robert. He just got back from the meetings, how many we're not in, but I think we're in all but a couple.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been good. And then when it used to be, we had the buckets first, and when the managers get really ticked off, they take the bucket and throw it at the umpire. So on TV you can see our bucket rolling. Oh yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
I just had a question on like how that works. Do you send those seeds for free, or are they paying for it, or how does that work?
Initially it was free, but you'd have to ask the boys.
Okay.
But no, it's a cost. It costs something. I think we get our cost out of it, but.
Okay.
No
I was just curious if it was worth like the marketing that you get in the beginning to just send them for free.
Yeah, well, you guys, social media, you get a kick out of this. So we would get all these pictures of, we get them off of the different teams. You could get them on ESPN or wherever, and they'd show our logo, our product, and we would post it. And all of a sudden, we're getting letters from their attorneys. Major League Baseball, you are not going to do that. That's not legal. So we had to shut it down, yeah. But people see it. And, of course, we make copies and we have them, but we really can't, distribute them. I don't know if you watched the game, the World Series, the last one, but, everything was in Gatorade but one of the Gatorade coolers had our seeds in them. And we got a picture of the manager of the New York Yankees eating our seeds. And then we got a picture of the famous Japanese player for the California team eating our seeds. So
Otani, I think is what it is. Yeah.
Yes. And what happened there was, and you'd have to ask the boys, but all of a sudden we're selling sunflower seeds to Japan. No sales effort, but I don't know, thousands of bags of seeds, and they don't eat in-shell sunflowers, but somebody is now.
So how did that feel?
Yeah.
Being the founder of Giants, and now you could go on a vacation to Florida, and your seeds are in stores.
It's fun, and I have to give credit to the boys because they moved them to the next level, and they've been running the business for a while now, and they're really moving forward. But how do I feel? I feel wonderful. I mean, it's great to see, and I think you have to understand too, and it still happens. As an example, like when Robert was working in the summer, being a young guy, young guys like to stay out late and sleep in, but
Sure.
That's not how this business works. So Robert would get in his car and he would drive down to where the distributor is, and he'd park at the distributor's. This is at night, and he'd sleep in his car. And then the distributor at 5 a.m. would knock on the window and say, "I'm here, let's go." So Robert, throws water on his face, gets in that little truck and goes from store to store to store, one store at a time. But, so we get in, it's a good product, but then the competitors come, and the competitors got a lot of product, and they'll pay companies not to have our product, to put theirs in. It's not legal. But the store, what are they going to do? They got free money, free money. And then are we going to sue the store? No. Are we going to sue the company and bring the store as no? I mean, so it's not right. It's not legal. But so we had to fight that. And some of these distributors I'm talking about that were taking us out finally said, "Hey, we got to sell you. We got to distribute yours because you guys got a better product." But it's hard. And my boys were telling me that, "Dad, if we started this company today, it would be so much harder." And because these chains get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they work with national brands, and you could say we're a national brand. Regional brand, we're dominant. But we still have work to do. You mentioned Florida. Yeah, we're in Florida. It's pretty cool. I've been in Las Vegas and seeing our product for an unbelievable sales price. But, still our market share is, we have work to do.
What is your market share right now? Do you know?
I don't. I would say in the upper Midwest, we're 60, 70%, but you'd have to ask the boys. But I will tell you this, that they've added cashews and pistachios, and they've been doing really, really well. And we used to always make very good money in the summertime when people are outside playing baseball, fishing, etc. But then inside, people don't like you spitting sunflowers in their restaurants. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But so then we would actually lose money in the wintertime, kind of like a farmer. You got to harvest, and then after that, it's all bills. So they introduced cashews and pistachios, and they've done very, very well with that. And of course, they've also introduced different flavors. I mean, we got a new flavor that's really, really good. Yes, here
Big
it is.
Easy.
The Big Easy. It's awesome. And the boys always joke because they said a long time ago, "Dad, we need flavors." And I said, it's just a trend. It's just a, it's not a trend. It's not going to last. It's gonna come and it's gonna go. Well, they proved me wrong. Although original is still the number one seller, I do know that.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's giving us more SKUs. Some more SKUs means if you go into a holiday station, I don't know what, we probably have 25 SKUs. Between our cashews and pistachios and pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds.
One thing I wanted to bring up between like the MLB and Giants was forget what it was called actually, but the event that you held here with tons of students and then players actually have come down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still do that, but when I was at St. Mary's, we had that. Do you want to touch on that a little bit for people who don't know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, we used to the Twins Caravan.
Yeah.
And they'd bring their bus here, and we would get people from the old folks' homes. They like to listen to baseball, so we would have them get them bussed in, and then we would take the sixth graders from St. Mary's, from Breck Public, from Wappet, and from the Indian School, and so then there'd be about 3 or 4 ball players.
Yeah.
There, yeah. I mean, one year we had Phil Hansen, the football player. He would MC for it, and we'd have music, we'd have hot dogs, and it was fun. We'd get a lot of the old Twins here, and it was a good time. And they kind of changed that up. I'd like to see it again. I mean, it's our employees really liked it too. It was kind of a break, and obviously you don't make any money on the deal, but it was good. It was fun. Yeah, you were there. It was kind of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Get out of school and see professional baseball players in our little community. It was great.
And we walked home with some free seeds and stuff like that. But do you remember this Circle Me Bert thing that he would do? He did it here too.
Right.
So, not to flex, but I actually won that, and then I got a bucket of seeds like that full of seeds and a baseball bat that I still have. So that was pretty fun to do that. I don't know how my drawing was horrible. I'm not an artist, but
so we're talking about the professional twin, Bert Blyleven.
Yes.
So then say
context.
what he did. What was he had?
So I don't know if he does this, what exactly it was, like at stadiums and stuff, but here basically we had a drawing contest. I don't remember. They gave us a prompt about draw what you think symbolizes the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Minnesota Twins the best. And so I did like the logos in the corners, and then I think all I did was really like the logo and then something to do with like Minnesota outline and stuff like that. And I would have to find a photo of it. But he picked like his favorite signs, top 2 out of like, so each class that came had like 3 or 4 that won their class, and then we came here with our signs, and then he picked his top 2 out of everybody that was there. And like I said, no idea how I won.
All right, I didn't know that. Good for you.
Yeah, and so I had those seeds and would hand them out Had some good street cred from that, from giving out seeds to all my buddies and stuff.
Well, we had when we had our grand opening, we had Dave St. Peter be one of the speakers. Was Dave was the president of the Twins, and now he's just retiring this year. He's been with the Twins. Phenomenal guy. He's originally from Bismarck.
Sure.
And then we had Mark Stottrud, the guy that's got Summit Brewing. Marcus.
Yes.
Marcus from Wahpeton. So we had him talk, and he's a card. He's my age. And then we had Max Bats, which a fellow from Wahpeton developed Max Bats and professional players.
Oh yeah.
So we had, and then we had Kenny Nelson, Barrel of Fun.
Yes.
And Kenny spoke. So that was our grand opening, which we had here. So it was kind of an entrepreneurial type business, celebration, so to speak. But that was a blast. Yeah.
That sounds like a lineup we should try and get on the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Phil Hansen that you mentioned is going to come on in January, so that'll be fun too.
Okay, yeah.
But,
we got Phil's picture down here. He stops in once in a while, and
Cool.
good guy, really good guy.
So obviously you're not involved day to day, but are you still swinging in and helping with stuff around here, or not as much?
No, the boys are running it, and
Yep.
if they have some questions, they can always ask me. But no, they do a great job, and I'll just get in the way. I do stop here because they have a colored printer. and it's electronic, so I do come here when I have to print stuff off, because at the house I got a piece of crap that
Sure.
never works, and I kick it and it still doesn't work. So
Do you know how many locations there are that Giants has?
Giant cells out of?
Yeah, sells out of.
well, there's a map,
Yeah.
and that map we're nationwide, but it's it's a good question. Thousands, but
Yeah.
How many when you started it? When you sent it off to your boys? Do you remember?
You mean how? I would say, I'm really guessing. I would say they've increased the distribution by 30 to 40%.
Wow.
But more importantly, they've added SKUs. So this number of SKUs has been up quite a bit. And it's amazing. We have the best quality cashew on the market, and it's the most expensive, and people are buying it. And I think, too, that what's happened with our economy in the last 4 years is that, the upper class, they've done extremely well because they've had money in the stock market. They've had money in real estate, and it's done well. And then you got the middle class. And the upper middle class has done well because, again, they've had stocks and they've had land. But the lower middle class and the bottom class, they've actually gone backwards because they haven't kept up with inflation. And it's sad. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that, beef jerky's got extremely expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So when people want a snack, I want the beef jerky at $10, or I don't want the sunflowers at $4, or the cashews at $4 or $5. Right? I should say $3 for the Giants, or do you want $5, or do you want $10 for the the protein?
Yeah.
So in a way, it's you work hard and you get lucky because we're in the right space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see the photo back there of that massive elk that you had killed. We want to touch on that. What do you like to spend your time doing outside of working? Obviously, hunting is one of them, but yeah.
It's an interesting question because I'm from a family of golfers, or I have a family of golfers. Robert he golfed for UND, and Mavian golfed for NDSU. Jason was a good golfer. Jesse was a good golfer. But I'm not a golfer. I'm not going to go out and chase a little ball around. But I love being outside. I love hiking. I love being in the woods. I love bow hunting. I don't gun hunt. I do for pheasants, but I just enjoy being outside doing things in a positive way. I live in the country, like it, got some acreage. It's people always say to me, or always said to me, how in the heck can you be a bow hunter? You got to sit and be quiet, because my personality was go, 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 go. And, to me, it was a way to unwind, and I still like that. So yeah, that's my deal. Jason's gone elk hunting with me couple times, 3 times, and I hope we go again. Robert and Jesse and Jason and I have gone to Alaska fishing. They do like fishing in Alaska, which has been great. When I had my 70th birthday party, we had it up at Lake of the Woods. We have friends that own Ballard's Resort, and we had the whole family up there and went fishing, which was good. But yeah, it's I'm different than a lot of people, but it's good.
Can you tell us your favorite hunting or fishing story that you've done? Like that elk. I'm assuming, is that your biggest one you've ever
It
shot?
actually is the biggest one, and it's the first bull I got, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's a monster. I got that up in British Columbia, and I drove up there. A friend of mine knew the guide up there, and I drove up there by myself, and we ran a horse all day, and that's really where I got my back screwed up, bouncing. And finally, we got to where we're going to be, and we had a little camp and stayed, and this guy, one of the bad memories I had. I got some new boots, and like a dummy, I didn't really break them in. So I'm walking, and all of a sudden I have blisters, and I'm in pain, and yet I, going all this way. But the first day, I ended up getting this nice bull, and it was weird. For hunters, calling a bull is interesting. The guide was back behind me, and the bull was, I was between he and the bull, and he was calling the bull, and they called back and forth, but that bull wasn't moving. So the guide starts walking back, and I couldn't see him walk back, but I could just tell by the call that he was walking away, but calling it. So then the bull got more interested. Well, then I happened to have a cow call, which I'm not a good caller, but I blew it a couple times, and that dang bull came right in. Yeah, so that bull thought, okay, he's leaving, but he left a cow, and I'm gonna go see. I'm gonna court that sweetheart.
Yeah.
So he came in, and I was able to put an arrow in him. Now,
with that
Bow.
See, that's
yeah,
incredible.
I
You
only
must have been close.
bow hunt. Yeah,
Sure.
Wow.
yeah.
You
So how
must-
far away was that then?
Yeah.
30 yards.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I got a funny question.
Okay.
How often do you eat the product of Giants?
Well, I can't put them down.
Yeah.
And if I start a bag of sunflower seeds, I'll eat the whole bag. And it's not always the most healthy thing. So I try and get these little packets. They've got these small packets. I try and get those because I'll eat that packet. But I could eat them every day, but I eat them quite often. Yeah.
I always think it'd be fun to do like a sunflower seed competition. My mom loves sunflower seeds, and she can eat them so quickly. But I think I can eat them pretty quickly too.
See who can finish a bag first.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that'd be kind of fun.
Oh, we do it different, like when I eat them, I put the sunflower seeds in my mouth, and I can take the meat out and store the shells over here, and then eat the meat, and then got the ones with the meat. I can do that, That's like a squirrel.
That's what I do. I take a handful and I put it all in one cheek,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I crack them and then move
That's
them to the
cool.
next.
Exactly.
Yep.
But you go to China or you go to Spain, it's not that way. They crack them one at a time and eat them.
In their hands.
Sometimes in their hands, sometimes
Okay.
just in their teeth to get them cracked. But it's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't do that. I got to spit it out right away.
Yeah.
So, being an entrepreneur, what is some advice that you would give to a young entrepreneur that maybe wants to start one business or multiple businesses?
Well, I think you have to. In my belief is you have to. Here's where we are today. Where's the future going to be, and where's it going to go? What's the trend? Because you want to go with the trend, right? Mm-hmm. It's like with hybrid sunflower seeds; they're going to be 100% hybrids. So I want to be in that trend. Plus, they're increasing yield so much, whereas other crops weren't at the time. So you want to be on a trend that makes sense. You don't want to be on something. Yes, you need to know the history, but that's a baseline. But really, where's the future going to be? It's just like like podcasts are so important in my life right now. Joan knows that I'm a podcast nut. But I don't even watch regular news like I used to. I don't even watch regular programming. I can't, I used to watch all the time. So I'm going. So I think as an entrepreneur, you need to do that. The other thing is that your word has to be your bond. You cannot lie. You have to tell the truth. You have to, when you make a commitment to somebody, you have to live by that commitment. If there's some problems, better deal with it, but always be honest, because you're going to be dealing with bankers, you're going to be dealing with customers, and you must be truthful and take care of your customers. I think one of the best teachers of customer, how to handle a customer is Steve Shields with the Shields program. Oh, he's phenomenal. He's the best merchandiser in the United States by far, hands down. The way he trains his people and the way they, the way he screens them and stuff, and it's a good example. So, but people are good. I mean, the other thing is you need to hire people. You should always be hiring people that are better than you in certain fields. I mean, we all have limitations, and we should know our limitations. We should know where our strengths are, where our limitations are, and backfill with better people in those areas. They don't always work out, but they eventually, most of the time they do.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for giving us your time and allowing us to be here and filming with you today. So this is a segment that we do at the end of every single show, but it's a little bit different since you created the business and you probably have unlimited sunflower seeds, but we give out one bag of sunflower seeds to our guest at the end of every episode. So if you want to take one, you can go ahead and take one. Like the big easy ones right here, the new flavor, or cashews too, whatever you want.
Well, Gal, thank you.
But thank you guys so much for watching Beyond the Spotlight podcast. We'll see you guys next week on Monday at 6 p.m. Peace. Perfect.
Real ones with me, I know we gon' beat the odds. Counterfeit, guess it from the thought of it. People fake, think they need to start a kid.